Do you know someone who's just gifted and can easily do that mental math? Well, I do, and that person is my father. Now, I can do mental math, but there is no one who can do it quite like my dad. I was amazed one time when he was visiting and I was looking for a new home. He accompanied my husband and I as we toured homes with the realtor, and he was able to do compound interest in his head. He figured out down to almost the penny as to what the payments would be on our home. We were shocked and amazed, and especially our realtor as she pulled out her calculator and discovered he was correct. There are ways that we can really develop this intelligence, and I include a link to the video to aid in the development of the mathematical intelligence. "What? I'm not cheating," my daughter exclaimed as she slammed the door coming in from school. Why? Because she had used mental math instead of showing all of her work in her algebra class. For years, I had carefully trained my children to use mental math, and she was so excited as she sat down and easily completed the problems without scribbling out all of the steps. However, her teacher counted every single problem wrong and gave her a 0 on the 50 problems that she had completed. There are ways that we had worked on mental math. We did it while we drove across the United States. We multiplied the numbers within license plates and figured out how many miles or how long it would take us to get somewhere. We worked on it in the kitchen. We multiplied and we added and we messed around with fractions. I also frequently changed the scoops in the flour and the sugar containers, which would make them think, how many 2/3 of a cup would they need in order to get 2 cups of flour? And just doing everyday items, like turning in our recycling. They would guess, how many pounds would it be? What is the price per pound? Although, despite all of this, I had to ask her about her question. It is very valid. Why did I bother to teach her mental math, especially when our public school system tends to label her as a cheater? And there are many reasons to teach this most valuable skill. 10. It encourages an understanding of numbers and not merely memorization. We want our children to really understand what the numbers mean, not just be able to count it like a preschool child. We want them to comprehend and to know what each of these numbers means and how it can be used in very quantitative means. 9. It's going to increase our skills in thinking and comprehension and number sense. Now, my children get a better idea. They know exactly how many kilometers are in a mile and miles to kilometers. They're able to compute things quickly and to be able to understand what the numbers mean on the sides of the roads, as well as quick numbers within simple things that they use every day. 8. It promotes creativity within math. How fun it was to watch my child sit down and decide she was going to write a science fiction story and quickly computed and did a whole bunch of computations to figure out how many pages she needed to write in order to complete it. And then within her story, she included complex math problems. 7. It increases our problem-solving skills. Think about this. How many times has your child or someone you know asked you something simple and they couldn't figure out the answer? And why couldn't they figure out the answer? They simply couldn't. They didn't know how to do mental math. They didn't have their smartphone with them or whatever it may have been. They couldn't figure out easy things like how to balance a checkbook. Or maybe it was something like, how long will it take to get from one place to another? Because they didn't know how to subtract and to divide and do those basic functions in order to figure out how many miles per hour. 6. The accessibility. People don't always have those paper, the pen, or even a calculator with them, and they need to be able to do some basic functions. 5. They can use different ways to come to the same answer. This is the most important thing of all. Let's encourage that creativity. Let them think it through. Let them really figure out and how to derive and to come to an answer, and then allow them to explain it. They don't have to do it exactly the way that you did it in order to come to the right way. 4. It's going to occur daily. Every day you run into math. Let's give our children and adults the ability to be excited and to build some confidence because they can use mental math in exciting ways. 3. It's going to give us an opportunity to perform even higher, more difficult math strategies. 2. That confidence. Remember, we talked about it just a second ago, but that confidence is important. How important is it for you to be able to walk into a store with money and maybe you only have cash because you forgot your wallet at home? Then what? You have to figure out how much money you have and if you can afford to pay for something, including the taxes. All of a sudden now, you have confidence instead of shrinking and feeling embarrassed at that cash register when you don't have enough. And, of course, the most important reason to do mental math of all. Number 1, my favorite reason of all, comes from my same daughter who had exclaimed. She says, this ever-conscious, earth-friendly child, why learn it? Because it simply saves paper. I include a link in the video description to aid in the development of this mathematical intelligence.